What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. This video is extremely overdue, but for the last 6 years, I have not believed in the 4-year cycle. In this video, I'll cover a few of the basics and try to explain and reason with you guys why that is. But once you come to this understanding, where we're going next in this market becomes a lot more clear. This is definitely a video we are going to reference back to in the very near future as we prepare our sell targets in the crypto market. So do make sure you guys pay attention. And let's dive in. Like I said, long overdue video. For those of you in the comments who have had comments about things from the 4-year cycle, and I've given you the quick explanation, hey, I don't believe in the 4-year cycle, and you guys have said, hey, you should probably make a video on that. That's a pretty crazy claim. Well, this video should help satisfy some of those questions. It's not going to cover everything in this video, because with a lot of my topics, I really do think I could rant for 30 minutes to an hour. Those of you who are in my premium Discord know that with some of these live streams, it can go on a little bit long. But regardless, I think I can narrow it down to a few quick hitting examples that are going to show you, hey, I kind of see what he means about 4-year cycle maybe not being as intact as a lot of people might think. And then, like I said at the beginning of this video, what that means for where we could potentially be heading in Bitcoin in the future, and how getting over that 4-year cycle theory right now actually could probably save you a lot of money in the long run. So we will go ahead and dive in. I think one of the best ways to explain it and to look at it is by looking at something like Bitcoin dominance. One of the things we've pointed to, real quick backstory in here, I was calling for a top in Bitcoin dominance back in here. I was publicly calling for a top April to May, June, July. We did end up getting a top in Bitcoin dominance back in there. Now, why was I calling for a top here? Is simply we were at fib retracement levels. I was seeing some signs that market was getting overheated. But the main thing is we were back at these elevated levels. Now, what was everybody telling me at that time? Everybody was saying, hey, we can't have alties and we can't have Bitcoin dominance roll over because it's too high. But that's when those things happen. Oh, Bitcoin can't bounce here because it's too low. Well, that's like when bounces come in, it has to go low before it can go higher. Bitcoin dominance, or altcoins are going to go on forever because Bitcoin dominance is low. Well, no, that's probably not the case, because at some point Bitcoin dominance is going to start going up, and we actually know that's probably a lot sooner rather than later because it already is low. So that's kind of the idea right there. But I think Bitcoin dominance really does give you a good idea. Now, at this point in time in the May of 2021 cycle, Bitcoin dominance had all but floored into this move in May of 21. Now, this is really important because we actually see a ton of tops in the market come in at this time. On chart here, I have Doge, XRP, and BNB, which put in tops. BNB put in a little bit more of a double top, but put in tops right here in May of 2021. And there's a laundry list of coins that look like this. So I want to leave this area, May of 2021, circled on chart for Bitcoin. Now, most people will look at this cycle in 2021 and they will say this is the top. If we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin obviously topped here by a few $100, Ethereum by a few $100. Solana actually put in a majority of its move into this move right here. Luna topped right here, 88 topped right here, but a majority of coins actually topped back in May of 21, with a select few of the really strong coins going in for a top in November of 2021. Now, something that's really interesting, you can see it show up on my indicator right here. This was the first time we ever had, kind of a large bearish divergence come in as some sort of top. Previous cycles all had these blow-off style of tops, right, where we see the blow-off top, initial little pullback, 702 retracement, and that's where we find the peak in the altcoin market. That's peak euphoria. Everything rolls over there at all times up really nice. Okay. Now, I do think things still did that this cycle here, which we can see in these altcoin charts that I have here. But we do get a little bit of, cloudiness in the read when we get things like this double top. I think, the fact that it is only a few $100, it's not very strong. I think people should be able to look away from that kind of 4-year cycle idea. And the reason people do believe it is a 4-year cycle still intact is because however they choose to measure, whether they're measuring from here or the bottom, I don't even really know how people are. There's about a billion different ways you can measure, but we'll just say from here. But timed up with however many days, I think I have it on here, 1,064 days to the cycle peak. I think if we did the same thing here, that kind of gets us out to, about similar number. So this is why everybody says 4-year cycle. But keep in mind, a very, very, very select few amount of coins topped into that move. Okay. Peak euphoria was back in here. This is the NFT craze. This is, celebrities talking about Bitcoin and crypto. This is Tesla adding crypto to its balance sheet. Elon Musk talking about Doge. All of these different things point to peak euphoria being in here, but that doesn't line up with the 4-year cycle theory. Now, one thing I do find really interesting, we can kind of take a step back for a second. And what's super interesting about this double top that did come in here is this leg right in here looks very, very much like something we would see deeper into a bear market. Yes, it made new all-time highs, but if you move like this had kind of creeped up in here somehow, some way, it would look very similar to this. Now, I have that shown on chart right here. I actually took this fractal in Bitcoin from right in here. Why did I choose this? This was our first higher low on Bitcoin dominance. This is not exactly a higher low, but it does serve as a similar point. This is assurance that Bitcoin dominance is likely finding a bottom. We don't get a real strong push lower, and altcoins don't make any sort of attempt to make a new high into that move. We're starting to see some strength in Bitcoin dominance, meaning it's going to go up, similar to in here. So this is where I took the fractal from, and you guys can see things do line up relatively nicely in there. We did get a double bottom in 2022. Let me take some of this stuff off the screen real quick, and we'll zoom in on this. We did get a double bottom. You can see being in some sort of bear market style correction is not far-fetched, even if it started in 2021 and this was some sort of oddity of a correction where we actually swept highs in a bear market. So that is about as in-depth as I want to get when it comes to why I don't particularly believe in 4-year cycles. One thing I did find super interesting is all throughout here, everybody who's telling you 4-year cycle now, Benjamin Cowens, all these people, we're all screaming super cycle into this move in here. So it's really odd to see the complete 180, probably because they got absolutely burned saying super cycle into a move like this. That's not my business though. Now everybody's all 4-year cycle this, 4-year cycle that. I have covered plenty of videos about how this bear market is completely different than any other bear market. I do have it in my notes to talk about it in this video, but we're actually going to avoid it just because I think things are going to run a little bit long. I'll try to link it in the description, but I would recommend going out and checking that video from probably middle of November, end of October, middle of November, where I started signaling to you guys, hey, this is not like any other bear market we've ever seen. Now, I said this is going to be super important because now we're in a position where it looks like Bitcoin is getting ready to appreciate. What do all of the bear market people do now? If Bitcoin makes a new all-time high, is it a new cycle to them? Is it super cycle? And I think the answer is neither. I don't think it's going to be a super cycle, as in, are we going to go into 2028, 2029, something crazy? Absolutely not. I think we'll go on as long as it takes for Bitcoin dominance to get about right there. And if these altcoins are going parabolic into a move like that, well, we've seen that time up with cycle tops multiple times in a row. I'm not going to be sticking around, hanging on much longer than that, hoping for some sort of super cycle just based on chance. So the reason I think a lot of people are going to get really, really hurt here is, one, they're going to be bears all the way to new all-time highs. They're going to hold on to that October of 2026 bottom around 50K, and that they were going to get to add all of their bags in at that point. Okay. Now, on the bull side, these people are going to be messed up too, or really on the bear side too, because now that they've accepted that we might actually be bullish, like I said, how are they treating it? Are they saying that's a new cycle? Are they saying it's some sort of super cycle? and the bulls are likely going to be screaming super cycle at that point in time. So you're going to have one camp completely confused, not being allocated into the market. You're going to have another camp saying this is going to go on for infinity. And the truth is probably going to be somewhere in between, where we do some quick burst and then that actual bear market comes in that I've been talking about. You guys will know when that comes. You guys will be like, oh, Americana, I actually realized what you're talking about. This right here was definitely not a bear market. That actually felt nothing like a bear market once the actual bear market came in. And I'm going to say, I know, guys. You're welcome. But yeah, that's why you guys are going to have the advantage if you guys can get this out of your head right now. Because when Bitcoin does make new all-time highs, it's going to be a shit show on theories about what is happening, whether it's people or cycle continuing on for multiple years, or people just in disbelief calling it a bear market all the way up. The truth is likely going to be somewhere in the middle, like I mentioned. I also have it on my notes real quickly here. I do want to mention too, one thing about the 4-year cycle that nobody really talks about is people will say, oh, we have institutions this time. That's why this cycle has felt different and been different. Contrary to popular belief, guys, there has been institutions in crypto since all the way back in 2017. How do you think Ethereum got started? All of that money came from private institutions, and you might say, oh, well, that's not big banks. Well, who do you think owns the private institutions? Who do you think sits on the board of directors for these private institutions that are getting pitched on Ethereum? It's the same people, guys. The only thing that's different this cycle when it comes to institutions being in crypto, it's actually not even really institutions at all. It's their clients, and these institutions are pushing it. These institutions have been in here for a long time. We had Bitcoin futures launched back in here. We had companies buying Bitcoin back in 2021. And if you think that they haven't had their hand in the market, being early investors into a ton of different projects, then you are just completely ignorant. Why do I think this is important is if it hasn't been extremely apparent this cycle, we are moving a lot more in tune with what these institutions are doing. Why is that important right now? Well, stocks are at new all-time highs. Okay, people are claiming bear market this, bear market that. If we're moving more in line with institutions than ever, right, we should be able to look to things like the U.S. stock market and world markets in general, which are all printing new all-time highs. So I just wanted to wrap it up there. We'll leave it with that point. Hopefully you guys found this video enjoyable. Hopefully you guys found it interesting. Again, do try to get this out of your head. This 4-year cycle idea, it's going to save you a ton of money once Bitcoin does make new all-time highs, and it's going to give you a lot more clarity. That's my opinion on that. We're going to wrap it up here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys click the links in my bio. I have a free newsletter in there. I also have a free Discord as well. Hit me up with any questions you have. I'll catch y'all. Peace.